Hi everyone, welcome back to Uncomfortable Conversations, the series that talks about what nobody ever talks about but everybody is thinking. I'm really excited for today's episode. This is a topic that is really close to my heart and something that I bang on about so much. Sales and marketing, it's not a cage fight, it's a partnership. And my guest today knows that when sales and marketing pull in the same direction, it's not just good for business, it literally transforms how teams work, trust, and succeed together. Mark Pembroke is here with me today. He's a senior account manager with Core Technologies, and he has many years of experience on the front line, let's call it that, within the whole sales and marketing ecosystem. The sometimes tense, quite often misunderstood relationship that is sales and marketing working together. But more than that, Mark has always been somebody that I've had the real privilege and pleasure of working with, collaborating with, and sharing knowledge with over the years during my time with Core when we worked together, and then still keeping in contact now. To me, Mark just epitomises what it means to advocate for alignment within sales and marketing while navigating the realities of revenue pressures, of course, performance, and that balance between finding that delicate foundational balance and that fine line between what is good sales and marketing. Mark, it is genuinely a pleasure to have you with me here today. Welcome to Uncomfortable Conversations.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for that intro. I think that's a series of the nicest things anybody's ever said at me all at once. So yeah, really
You're,
appreciate it.
you're very welcome. I'll do a little edit for you just for that, and then you can
Perfect.
keep it up.
Perfect.
So today we're going to be digging into that, let's call it that age-old tension between sales and marketing, because it's misunderstood. It's often seen as a battleground. It's not always smooth sailing, and it's not always a collaborative best practice experience. But in this episode, I want to break down some of those myths, let's call them that. I want to really look at that divide and where it comes from, and just kind of have a little bit of unpacking of the friction that comes from sales and marketing, and when they don't pull together, what's keeping us apart. But on the flip side of that, what good looks like. How do we get that partnership to really work in sync? But before we dive into that, Mark, just for everybody, give us a little bit of a background about you. Who are you? Bit of a career summary.
Who am I? Yep, no problem at all. So yeah, my name's Mark Pembroke. So I'm one of the senior account execs here at Core. Core are a Microsoft MSP and professional services partner. I've actually been at the organisation for coming up to 15 years. So even though it's kind of one company, I know I still sort of pull a face when I think it's been that long, but been at one company for so long, but it's almost like I've been at multiple because I've seen it change, I've seen it evolve and seen it adapt so much. Different sales teams and structures, different marketing teams coming and with new ideas and different things that we've been trying. So yeah, really excited and thank you for having me on today. I'm really excited to kind of cover this topic because I know it's something obviously you've mentioned you feel really passionately about, and I do as well because it's so critical. And it's often something that is very ignored. So I'm excited to kind of dig into it today.
Perfect, thank you very much. And because this show is all about the human side and about uncomfortable situations and being uncomfortable in yourself, what's one thing you would like to share with people, or maybe you don't want to share with people, but you will anyway, something that maybe people don't know about you, a little fact that might surprise someone?
Yeah, I'll add, as the podcast is called Uncomfortable Conversations, I'll add a little bit more to this story than I otherwise would have done. So I am a twin brother. I have a twin brother who currently lives in Australia, although he's just moving back. So very excited for him to come home for the first time in sort of 5 years he's been out there. But there's sort of two facts about being a twin. So I myself am 6'4". He's 6'7". So he's very tall. He hears it a lot. But when we were actually born, we were the heaviest twins to ever be born at the Luton and Dunstable Hospital.
Oh my goodness.
So I think twins notoriously are a little bit lighter. But yeah, we kind of broke the mold on that one. So
Wow.
my mum And also on the uncomfortable side, he was actually sat on my head pre-birth. So I actually have a little ridge in the top of my head, um, sat on my head either side. So I've got a little imprint from him that I carry around everywhere I go.
And do you remind him of that frequently in
Oh,
conversation?
yeah, constantly. It's yeah, I like to bring that up every opportunity I can with him.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Out of interest then, just because I'm curious now, how much did you both weigh?
Right, I think it was. I've actually got a little message here from my mum that she sent me. So I was £6 9 ounces, and James was £8 8 ounces.
Good Lord. Oh
Yeah,
my goodness. Okay, yeah, that's two heavy twins.
yeah. As this is my mum saying this, by the way, not me, but to quote her, she was massive. Uh, so very relieved, I
Oh
think, once we were out in the world.
wowzers. My, that's amazing. All right, so let's kick off. Now I touched on this earlier, and I'm gonna start here because it's a good place to start. So I referred to it in my intro that where I refer back to my time working at Core and how sales and marketing worked so well together. I hold it as the gold standard. Whenever I'm now working within different teams, different businesses. I also refer to it quite a lot in my role as a mentor within the channel for some other
Mm.
marketers and marketing leaders because it really was. So for kind of take myself back to that early experience. So from day one, what really stood out to me when I joined Core was how open you were, how engaging and excited the wider sales team were for marketing. You guys backed campaigns, you were welcome to new ideas, you invited me and the team into your meetings. If I remember early on in that first office of Core, we all sat together, and that was for me coming in to that business, and particularly in a technology business, that was unheard of. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. We're like literally sat with the sales team.
Mm.
You kind of, I think that a lot of people, particularly in marketing, they underestimate how valuable it is to literally be sat in that environment where you can hear firsthand what sales, the challenges sales are having on their calls, the conversations that they're having, those blockers that you're having to try and undo on a day-to-day basis. But also what I thought was particularly good for me and the team, you heard what we were talking about as well. You could input into those conversations if we were trying to, come up with content or campaigns. It was that immediate two-way knowledge share, and it was so impactful, so hugely valuable. Where was that a conscious decision for you and the team? Was that something that had been led by experience and by having maybe worked in a situation where that didn't happen, so you kind of preempted it and thought we're going to do it differently?
I've definitely, and yeah, I'm kind of going to echo what you've said in many ways because I think certainly during that period as well, and it was a really strong kind of relationship that sales and marketing had at Core. And there's been some really strong relationships over my whole time here. But we really hit the nail there around how we can work, like you said, more collaboratively and how we can all drive in the same direction. And I think, yeah, there's definitely some lessons learned, but I think it's the kind of culture that's been fostered. I think if you foster a culture where everybody's kind of has the same objective, where everybody's ultimately aiming and striving to better the business and to move forward, and everybody wants each other to do well, I think that's only going to lead to success. And I think, and I'm really happy, as I say, you're doing an episode on this because I think I care quite strongly about this topic, and I think the main thing for me is that relationships are so important. And it's a blanket statement, it's an obvious statement, but I think it's never more important when you have a sales and a marketing team. I think it's too easy for sales to say there's not enough leads, and you have marketing saying are wasting sales are probably wasting all the leads that we're giving them, kind of thing. So we need to break away with that. And I think the only way we really do that, and the way that people work better together, is by building some kind of relationship. Um, and if I give you a kind of example, I think, think how many emails that we get, or messages we get, I should say, in emails on LinkedIn or wherever it is, from people that we've never heard of before. And I mean, I'll ask you the question: what do we tend to do with a lot of those messages?
No, I do. I hit delete.
Yeah, hit delete and we move on. If we break that down, I've always wondered, like, why do we actually do that? Because there is a human being on the other side of that in a lot of cases. They might be sending it to hundreds of people, but it's become so acceptable for us to just hit delete on a message. I do it. Everybody does it because I'm too busy. Don't know who you are. I'm just going to move on. And I think we really need to look at that a bit wider. So I'll take yourself. You obviously very kindly reached out to me for this episode, and you got in touch with me on LinkedIn initially. And because I know you, I've got a relationship with you from working together. Most importantly, I really respect you. And because we built that relationship, I can't, but I also don't want to ignore that message.
Mm.
I might not be able to do the podcast. I might not have the time. I might be away. I might be on holiday. But morally, I can't ignore it. And it's because I know the person. And I think if we take that into a sales and marketing team, there's always going to be introverts and extroverts and different people. Sales, naturally, there's probably more extroverts in the world of sales than you might get across a whole marketing team, give or take, if you compare the two. But I think, it doesn't have to be all going out and building this massive, going on nights out. I think it is just sometimes as simple as checking in with the other team and saying, is there anything I can help you with? And I think that really starts that kind of, they want to help me. So let me give something back. Let me help them. And I think if those relationships can be built, I think that's the start of something really special. And I think that was what we definitely had in that time that you've referred to there, when you were at Core.
And saying, how can I help you? What are your challenges? What are your blockers? And just looking for those quick wins, those opportunities to really establish that basis of, I'm here to help you. Because that's marketing is a service function. We are there to service the business, and our main key stakeholder is sales. And we've got to be able to work in harmony, but to understand as well the language that sales talk. It's not enough marketing, and I've been guilty of doing this. We all do it. We come up with this great campaign and we're so excited and we've got this brilliant idea. We're going to do all of this, and we're so busy being creative and getting excited and coming up with everything, and we create brilliant decks and all this lovely collateral, and we chuck it at sales and we go, here you go.
Yeah.
Look what we've done. It's like we've baked you a cake. Look what we've done for you. Look, we did this. And then we kind of sit back and we wait for you to get excited. But sales are there like, okay, explain it to me. And we're like, no, look, it's really good. It's really good. So we are. But we've missed that. We've fundamentally missed that key component of meeting sales where they are early on, and saying, what do you think? Is this actually going to work for you? Is this what you need in order to go and meet customers and to sell and to do your job successfully?
So true, isn't it? I mean, yeah, you've really hit it then, and I bet it happens, in most cases. To be honest, is marketing will come up with campaigns, and they'll put it out there based on kind of key things that they've maybe been targeted on from their board or whoever it is, and then sales kind of get it and see it and run with it. But you're so right. It's about where it's really successful, I think, is taking a step back, where we're actually learning what's going on the floor on sales at the moment. What are you hearing? What do you think people are most interested in? How receptible is the market at the moment? And we can learn the other way as well. And we'll go, what's the market as a whole doing at the moment? How can we take some of that and apply that to these conversations that we're having with customers? So I think it is having that really early on, rather than kind of almost, I want to say learning on the job. I'm not sure if that's the right phrase, is it? But it's kind of just doing it and seeing. It's kind of
Yeah.
that time in at the start to work together to really nail that message.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it is, and I think as well there's an element of with marketing particularly. There's almost we can get a little bit we can get a little bit almost kind of putting our arms around our marketing campaigns because it's but we crafted this, we came up with this, there's all that love has gone into it, and we take it quite personally, and
Mm,
we shouldn't do this, but we're human, and human nature dictates that we do. But we kind of get to this point where in our head logic is telling us we've got to go and test this. We've got to go and put this out there. We've got to run a few little test pilot campaigns, get see how this is going to land, understand from sales, but then not take it personally when sales come back to us and say it's not working, got it
mm,
wrong, message isn't landing. And I think that it's really hard, it's really hard to do. But I think, to your point earlier, if you've built that relationship, if you've got that relationship based on trust, and
mm.
that that's a long road, that's got to be earned, but
Yeah,
you build to that point where you can have very open and honest conversations, and you can give and receive feedback in a non-confrontational way. That's actually, if in our heads we're all thinking of we've got a shared goal, we have a shared goal, we've got shared KPIs, we're all pulling towards this one particular vision, mission, purpose, whatever it might be, and everything we do is working together to get to that point.
mm,
We should be able to almost take the emotion out of it
mm.
and have those conversations of, and I kind of say within my teams, and within meetings I go to, it's okay to be able to put your hand up and say, hey, we got it wrong.
Yeah,
We tried it. We
yeah,
put something out there. We thought it would work. We thought it'd land, but the data's telling us, and sales are telling us, and common sense is telling us, hey, it ain't working.
yeah.
Let's stop. It's that fail fast mentality, and being agile enough to be able to do it without hurt feelings and ego coming into it, because it is about what's best for the company, what's best for customers at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you've mentioned a few really, really good points there. I think I love the phrase and it's not just sales and marketing. And I'm not going to go too deep on you here, but I really love the phrase. There's real strength in vulnerability, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's having the courage, I think, to sometimes, especially in sales, where stereotypically it tends to be more one of the ego-driven careers. And I'm just naming a stereotype there, I know, but it's probably a lot of people have pride in their ability as a salesperson, for example,
Mm-hmm.
hit their number to perform. And in when people go for future jobs, which, as mentioned earlier, I haven't done, but like I'm sure it's really important to have a really good track record.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to them. But I think there's so much strength in being able to, for myself, maybe go to marketing and say, look, my pipe's looking really lean at the minute, and I'm really struggling to self-generate. It's not happening for me at the moment. I'm going through a patch, because it's uncomfortable to say that. It bruises yourself, it bruises your own ego. But you know what? It's honest,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that thing you went back to. And maybe marketing might come to sales and say, I'm getting hammered here by the board because the numbers of people that I'm just generating for the sales team aren't right. So sales, how can you help me? Is there anything
Mm-hmm.
that you're hearing? Is there any free workshops at the moment which would really land with customers that you think we could do? What campaigns can we spin up quickly? Like, help me,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
can. I think And it goes back, you mentioned we're all human earlier, or you're a human being and you get attached to your campaigns. I think that's the key there. It's like, this is real life. You know, we are all human beings. We're not work machines. We're not, you know, there's not sales Mark and real life Mark. There's just Mark. I'm the same person at all times.
Yeah.
I just have a job to do. And we ultimately just need to all pull in the same direction. So if we can be more open with each other, if we can have more open conversations, we can admit when things aren't going quite the way we want it, but equally we can sing from the rooftops when they are and really hype each other up and get people excited and
Yeah.
make sure that everybody in the company knows they've done a great job. You know, recognition is a huge one. Maybe letting the rest of the company posting out on whatever platform you use, Viva Engage or whatever it is, just saying, marketing did this great campaign. They helped me run this fantastic webinar and drive attendance to it. And I've now X amount of SQLs now. And that kind of breeds that, I want to do that again. I want the company to hear my name in the lights again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just about that, isn't it? It's about pulling together.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think I just you saying that it kind of got me thinking on the other foot, and I'm really keen to get your thoughts on this. Actually, sorry, I flipped the podcast around. I've turned host now, but I'm about to ask you a question. I think, you know, let's take a scenario where maybe it's not going so rosy on either side. So this is where we get into that uncomfortable conversation part of the podcast. But I guess, how do you think we can kind of stop the blame game? How do you think we get over the, you know, let's say there's not enough leads coming through and those that are, sales are just not converting, and we're trying things, and you know what we're trying just doesn't seem to be working at that period. It's a slow quarter all around. How do you think we, as a whole, and obviously we've all seen that happen, and you've had a long career in marketing, and I've seen that over the 15 years as well, so got some thoughts on it. But what do you think is really key at that point?
So a couple of things for me that I've done and that I've seen work, and in varying degrees, and it's a lot of it based on the relationship, the level of relationship within the business. I use data a lot. So my fallback position around will always be, let's look at the data. What's the data telling us? And I will always get sales to look at it with me so that they can understand it as well in the language of marketing. So if we're talking about, I don't know, we've run a campaign with XY ads and we've done LinkedIn and they've done LinkedIn and we're trying to drive towards something particular and we need to download whatever it is. Explain the analytics in a way they understand the journey and the triggers. So if we're doing this up here and we want people to get to this point down here, we've got to drive them along this particular journey, and we need these triggers in order to do that. So that's kind of one thing that I try to do. I try to use the data, because otherwise you're just another person with an opinion. And if sales have heard and probably are getting a little bit battered, because sales always will be when the numbers aren't there. It's always first it's sales and then it's usually marketing that kind of get it in the neck. The one thing as well, which is probably quite an unpopular opinion, certainly within my marketing community, is I will literally stop everything. I will, if it's not landing and it's not delivering, I'll literally pull the plug and stop everything and say, right, we need to go back to the drawing board. I'd rather fail fast. I'd rather stop, and I will go back into the board, and I have gone back into the board and say it didn't work, but this is what we've learned. We've learned now not to do that because it's not delivering the results that we need. And then collectively come together and try and work out, so what do we do? Let's go and talk to customers. We've got those friendly customers, those good customers that we always go to. Let's go sit down with them. Bring me in to some of your account meetings. Let's actually talk to people about, if we invited you to this thing, would you come? If we sent you an email, you know, pretend that you didn't know us and we were trying to get your business and we sent you an email with a PDF attached to it, would you open it? What would you do? And they're always going to say no,
Mm.
always. But so it's kind of just getting back to, sometimes you need to strip out all the complexity and get back to basics of one-to-one relationships and engagement, particularly with customers. And if you're, as we do, we work within an IT technology vendor world, getting out there with vendors and understanding from them, you've got your finger on the pulse. What are you hearing? What's changed? What's happening?
Yeah.
How do we get to go and meet these people where they are? But I try and always encourage marketers within my team, anyone that I speak to, if you're not sitting on sales calls and if you're not getting yourself into sales meetings with customers, you're never going to know what's going on. You're never going to be able to respond quickly, fix things, or ramp things up, or actually just delight and create an experience that's going to keep everyone happy, sales, customers, and business.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and again, completely agree. And when you were saying that, it's the analogy. I can't remember who said it. Maybe it was Einstein, but it's in the definition of insanity is doing the same thing
Exactly.
over and expecting a different result. And I think
Mm-hmm.
there is bravery though to it, like you say, to stop it and take a step back, because it feels counterintuitive to actually do less activity at that point, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
feels like, but then if you liken it, I I like to go to Vegas over the years, and when you're on the tables and you're not having a good time and you you're losing a bit of money, at some point you've got to walk away from that table and reassess.
Mm-hmm.
Go
Yep.
to another
Yep.
table, take a time out, go to the pool, but you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
get away
Yeah.
from the situation, because whatever's happening in that moment isn't working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I couldn't resonate more with that. So I think that's a really good
Mm.
point there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question. Good question. I'm pleased you asked it. So let's talk about Core for a minute. So 2
Yes.
consecutive CRN Best Marketing Campaign Award wins, 2022 and 2023. That in itself is testament to sales and marketing alignment, working together, and the relationship. They're an absolute reflection of what genuinely being in sync is. But so from a sales side, how did that kind of alignment come about, and how did it then continue to evolve and help build those relationships? Because presumably that's not a one and done. You don't just come up with an award entry and then kind of you go back to the way that you've always worked. That's building on and continuing to build on good relationships.
Yeah. I think it's, and it's going back to near the start of the podcast. Really, it was the business as a whole. I mean, Core has really maintained that close connection over the years between marketing and sales. And I think by close connection, what we mean by that is that marketing really understand from sales what is going on, what's going on in the market, what customers are talking about. And marketing did a really great job and have done a really great job and Core's kind of really evolved in this, is really nailing the propositions that we've got, so that sales are, and I think you alluded to it earlier, sales are really crystal clear about where that campaign is leading to.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, what's the output? There's some really good, there's been some fantastic campaigns over the years, and a lot of them that I've seen at Core, there's always that kind of call to action at the end that sales are really aware of, and what it's kind of driving. So I think that's been really, really key, because that gets sales excited. If I can see, for example, that there's a campaign going on around managed services, and the ultimate goal of that campaign is to translate into recurring revenue that's XYZ. And this is the journey that we go on to get there.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they're going to learn at different stages of that journey. They're going to go on this part of it, and they're maybe going to attend an event, and we've got this work coming, and there's all this collateral, and it's all shiny, and it's all, it's looking great. And I think that's where we really nail it. And I also think marketing do a really good job, and have done a really good job, going back to when you were there, of hammering home value with customers. So what you're putting out there is actually really valuable content that customers going, oh, hang on a minute, yeah, I could save money if I did this. I could improve efficiencies, because let's be honest, that's the only reason people buy anything. They don't buy something because they want something in IT and in business. They buy it because they feel they need it. They feel
Yeah.
without it, their life's going to be a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
So I think where a campaign nails that and really gets down to that ROI and that value, that we've seen huge success here at Core.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And is it, I think you've talked about this a couple of times now, and it's certainly something that I've seen being in the business and see from the outside now looking into the business as well. I think the good alignment and the relationship, it's culture led. It's having that foundation of a very, very strong culture. And from what I know of Core, a really strong set of values, which are actually felt throughout the business. And I know from working there, Connor and the leadership team, they genuinely believe in the values of the business, and they genuinely work to create that strong culture. They're not trying to almost cultivate something and force it. It's not unnatural. They've organically grown a culture that's genuinely built on trust. And I mean, you've been there for 15 years. And I remember very early on hearing your lovely story about your first interview with Core, and your kind of experience with Connor. But it's sharing those moments. And I think a business that fosters that and really works to champion a genuine sense of people feel like they belong. It's not a buzzword. They're not just trying to, right, well, we've got to have a set of values written on the wall and we've got to write this in the company statement because everybody does.
Yeah.
They don't sit there and say, right, we want you all to belong. People just genuinely do. People feel that sense of, I can be my own authentic self at work and in this business.
Yeah, absolutely. And you took the words right out of my mouth. Is to some values are plastered on the wall, like live, laugh, love, maybe in someone's house. But when you break it down and really get into those values, what do they actually mean to an organization? And I think that's what I've been really proud of about Core, to be honest, is that I genuinely believe that we do live them. If I just give you one example, our first value here is customers. And kind of the tagline of it is putting customers first and making sure they're the forefront of our thinking. And yes, we certainly do that. But what I like to think is, what does that actually mean? What that actually means. And when I talk to customers and talk about the values, I try and explain it in less of a kind of on the wall side. And I explain, what does that actually mean to you? I think to me, that customer's value means is we're going to come in and we're going to understand what is keeping you up at night, what is giving you a headache, what's going to make the biggest benefit to you. We need to understand what your problem is, and we need to make sure that we're measuring value, whatever we put forward to you. Is what we're going to do to deliver you either cost savings, time savings, whatever, efficiency, whatever it is it going to add a tangible benefit? And then we need to constantly measure against that benchmark. I completely agree with you. It's that real kind of cultural piece. And that comes as well, going back, it's a big thing around marketing. It's often kind of the messaging around those values and that culture. I often find, in Core, maybe I'm a bit biased here, but I've always felt that sales and marketing really help drive a culture in an organization. Maybe it's because they're more seen as kind of the front line in terms of customers and how they perceive them. But yeah, I think it's really, really important to a company's success.
Yeah, on something a little bit reflective. So you and I both know, and we've talked about alignment. It doesn't happen by accident. It takes effort. I use this word quite a lot. It takes empathy, because you've got to connect with people on that empathetic level. You've got to understand somebody's challenge. You've got to almost, that metaphor, you've got to walk a mile in their shoes. You've got to understand both sides of the equation. And sometimes having those uncomfortable conversations is actually the way to move forward. You've got to sometimes get in the room and say, hey, be vulnerable. Hey, we did this thing and it didn't work. We've really messed up. And, for sales to come and say, as you've said, hey, I'm not going to hit my target this month. You've got to help. What can I do? Help me rectify this situation. So, Mark, let's have a think about them. If you can leave people with one final thought from today, what's the biggest myth, or let's say misconception, about sales and marketing partnerships that you'd love to just bust for good? Break it down.
Really good question. I think it's really, really easy and obvious to think that sales and marketing are these part of the same engine, but often adversaries in some areas. And I think we need to bust that. I think it can often be quite combative. I think it can often be a bit of an argument, a bit of a fight, a bit of a blame game. And in order for sales and marketing to both be successful, it's about you have to realize that you're all pulling for the same thing. You're all ultimately trying to end up with more business won. That's what's ultimately going to do it. So whether it's marketing giving you more SQLs, the more SQLs that they give you, the more kind of stuff you've got in the funnel to turn into ultimate sales that end up in your numbers. So everybody wins. So there's actually, when you really go into it, there's nothing combative about sales and marketing working together. Yet we seem to have divided it where it's based on or there seems to be generally a lot of organizations that have that very you and I mentality. Organizations have to break that down. They just have to, if they want to see real success.
Absolutely. Was talking about what it means to win, a winning mentality. And he likened it to, it was a sports analogy, and he likened it to a sports team. In his reference, it was basketball, but it could be anything. I always frame it, I'm a big cycling fan, I always frame it in the old days of Team Sky, when Dale Brailsford was in charge of Team Sky, because the approach that they had it was about the team winning. It wasn't about any one individual. And the analogy yesterday that G2 used, he was talking about you've got to in yourself, whichever role you're in a business, particularly in sales and marketing and product, it's not about you. You've got to take your ego out of it, and you've got to kind of think to yourself, what are you prepared to sacrifice in order to win? And it was really, really interesting, because it was that kind of approach of, if you always think the team have to win, we have to get the company, the business, to achieve. You've got to meet the business goals, you've got to meet targets, you've got to make money. So if you kind of take your own ego, which everybody has, out of the equation, and stop thinking, liking it with sporting references of, if you want to win, and it's down to individuals, you'd then say to people, okay, well, if you want to win, that means you can't go and do the televised interviews at the end of the game, because you've got to go and do your team stuff. And someone will say, no, I'm not prepared to not do that. I want to go and do that. Okay, well, you're not all in it to win then, are you? And it's understanding, I think, the things that kind of almost make us up as individuals, and taking that out for the greater good of the team. And then just thinking always in your head, the team, it's about the team winning. It's not about any one individual. It's really powerful metaphor, really got me thinking.
Great analogy. Really, really great. I love the kind of, you have to sacrifice to win. I'm stealing that one, if that's okay. But yeah, I really, really like that, because it's so important. And just sorry, I know we're maybe going over, but I think on that sacrifice stage, I think sales as a whole, we need to put the egos down and the ego aside, and really look at the team effort. I mean, it's not enough to do it by yourself and do it on your own and kind of be all in it for yourself. I think those days are numbered. I mean, good luck to you if you want to go that way, but I'd much rather myself work collaboratively with all
Yeah.
the teams, and especially with marketing, who are ultimately feeding me,
Yeah.
to make sure that we're really getting as much through the door and as much qualified, really great messaging out there as possible. So yeah, I agree more with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And hey, you've been there 15 years, and you know, Core goes from strength to strength to strength with award wins, and with everything that you guys are achieving. So it's amazing. It's a great testament, great success story. Mark, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of this conversation with me. I've had such a brilliant time talking to you. I've really, really appreciated it.
No,
So
thank you very much, Louise. Yeah, loved it. Thank you.
pleasure. And so, as always, for anybody who's listening, you may be a little bit tired of the silos, of the missed opportunities, the miscommunication, maybe feeling like you're shouting out into a void. I know I have done it many times. I hope this episode has reminded you that there is better, and there absolutely is a possible way forward. And it does start with empathy. It starts with curiosity, particularly if you're in marketing. Get curious, go and talk to your sales team, get on those sales calls, go and start those conversations with something as simple as, how can I help? Be vulnerable and be human. Mark, thank you so much for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure. I've loved having you on today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Louise. That's great.